In this video, I'm going to talk about generating random numbers in JavaScript. So here I have a little bit of code. I have a button right here, and when I click it, it runs my rand function. Now my rand function just has an output with nothing in it, and then it has a for loop which repeats 20 times, right, from 0 to 19, and I keep adding to my output a line break and then a random number. Now math.random by itself, and actually I'll run this right here, math.random, if I just run it by itself, I get a random number between 0 and 1, actually greater than or equal to 0 and less than 1. So you will get a decimal random number, and here I have 20 of them. No big surprise. All right, let's look at some other examples. So what if you want to change the range of your random numbers? Well, you just multiply by something. So here I'm multiplying my math.random times 4, and actually if I run this, you can see what happens. I now get random numbers between 0 point something or other, and 3.999 would be the biggest possible random number. And usually, to make this even more useful, usually this is rounded down. So if I write a math.floor here, math.floor, and this is typically how you will see random numbers. This is quite useful. So now I'm getting random numbers. I'm rounding down, so I'm getting random numbers. These are going to be whole numbers, 0, 1, 2, or 3. And actually, let me just run this again. So I'm now getting 4 possible random numbers. This is how I think about it. Whatever you multiply by tells you how many random numbers you could possibly get. 4 possible random numbers, rounding down. So those 4 possible random numbers are between 0 and 3. Well, what if I want 10 possible random numbers? Yeah, you just multiply by 10. That's all there is to it. So let me rerun this. Now I have 10 possible random numbers. They are between 0 and 9 because I'm rounding down. So this is a nice thing to kind of keep in mind. Whatever you multiply by tells you how many possible random numbers you could get, but I'm rounding down, so they are between 0 and, in this case, 9. All right, let's look at a couple more examples. In this example, I've decided to add my random numbers to an array. So I created an array. This is how you make an array with the square brackets. So I have an array called myRand, and it starts out as an empty array. And then I'm still looping 20 times, and I'm adding to each position. So the first time through, I'm adding to position 0 a random number between 0 and 9, and then it keeps repeating. So every element in my array is some random number between 0 and 9, and then I'm printing out my random number, myRand.toString. And if I run this thing, yeah, you can see that I get random numbers between 0 and 9, and I can keep generating random numbers. Pretty cool. So what if I want my random numbers to start at some non-zero value? Perhaps I want 1 to 10. Also pretty easy. I can just add a starting value here, right? So I'm adding 1 to each of them. So now I will get a random number between, let me rerun this, between 1 and 10. And if I run, oh yeah, I did. Well, look at that. I think I have, well, I don't know if I have all of them, but I'll certainly get a random number, yeah, between 1 and 10. So just to clarify again, whatever you multiply by is telling me how many random numbers I'm going to get. The math.floor means I'm going to get so I'm getting 10 random numbers between 0 and 9, but since I'm adding 1, I'm now getting 10 random numbers between 1 and 10. Now I could add anything I want. I could add, 3. And I don't know why I would want to do that, but now I'm going to get 10 different possible random numbers starting at 3. Interesting. Let's just do one more example. In this last example, I just put in a couple of variables, again, to reinforce what's happening here. So I have a variable called how many, which obviously I'm going to use to tell me how many possible different random numbers I can get. And then I have another variable called start, which is going to be the starting random number. So here I'm generating, so how many I said is 3. So this will give me 3 possible different random numbers between, if I'm rounding down, my 3 possible random numbers will be 0, 1, or 2, but then I'm starting from 5. I'm adding 5 to each random number. So I'm actually going to start from 5, 3 random numbers, so I could potentially get 5, 6, 7. Again, what I'm multiplying by tells me how many possible random numbers, and I'm going to, my lowest random number, or my starting random number, is going to be 5. And let me generate some random numbers, and you can see that the lowest random number that I'm getting is 5, and they're going up to 7. Yeah, 3 different possible random numbers starting from start. So this is a useful pattern to kind of be familiar with. Whatever you multiply by tells you how many possible random numbers, starting from whatever you add to at the end. All right, that's all there is to it. Thanks so much for watching.